Is CSGO dying? Just kidding. I think the community's in a good place right now. CSGO's first major of 2018 was a massive success. The finals, one of the greatest the game has ever seen. And this was reflected in the numbers, the finals managing the highest peak viewing number ever, according to the viewers listed in the match description here. The previous record was 5,000 fewer, set exactly a year ago during the Atlanta finals. The game's doing well. Let's be happy for a moment. And now let's compare it to the other majors, just out of curiosity. I didn't bother listing the ones before DreamHack 2014 since it's harder to get information about them. CSGO has nicely tracked and recorded every match of every major since then, and I simply went through them all and put them into some graphs. So you don't have to. Of course, peaks only represent the most successful second of the match. I would rather have had the average numbers to compare, but hey. What I did instead was to get the average of each match's peak to try and get a more accurate representation of how much the majors were being viewed. And here were my findings. Boston's quarterfinals were the third most watched of all time, behind Columbus 2016 and Cologne 2015. Its semis were fourth most watched, behind Cologne 2015, Atlanta 2017 and Columbus 2016. And its finals were also fourth most watched of all time, behind Columbus 2016, Atlanta 2017 and Cologne 2015 again. So CSGO's viewer base at the start of 2018 is healthy, but not the biggest it's ever been. This graph helps to put its current situation into perspective, and I think you'll agree that Boston was a respectably viewed major. While we're on this chart, there are some other interesting things that I'd like to quickly cover. I would normally expect semi-final matches on average to get more views than quarterfinals, but you can see that it isn't always the case. The last two majors have had almost exactly the same views for both. This has got to be down to which teams are playing, and you'd expect a match between two of the most popular teams to be viewed the most, even if it is earlier on in the event. Still, hasn't stopped the finals from always being the most viewed so far, apart from with DreamHack 2014 where they were slightly behind the semis. Thanks for ruining my point, 2014. This is all stuff that I covered in more depth last year following the Atlanta major. I suggest you check the video out. I'll leave it here in the cards to click on. I talked about the importance of which teams were playing. I also speculated that the time between majors mattered, and that the less popular events had always occurred when there hadn't been so much time since the previous one. But this hasn't been the case since. Krakow and now Boston have both had a 6-month gap since the one before, and yet Krakow still underperformed. I now just think that majors alternate between successful and disappointing for absolutely no reason. But that doesn't bode well for the next major, which rumour has it will be hosted by Faceit in London. I wish them the best of luck to break the curse. And while we're at it, can we please have some decent English teams? So, the esports side of CSGO seems to be doing well. But what about the people actually playing the game? Steam Charts is a great resource for this, showing the average players per month as well as the peak. PlayerUnknown's somehow continues to grow month on month. It's utterly insane how it's still rising. And although CSGO's growth is nowhere near as impressive, you may be surprised by how well the game is performing. I'm honestly surprised. I consider 2015 to be the year the game took off, but the viewer base has remained remarkably strong since then. 2016 as a whole saw significantly higher average and peak numbers of players, and 2017 managed even higher average numbers, although peak numbers have dropped a tiny bit. Isn't this video happy and positive? Makes a change, doesn't it? But let's try to see the negative in everything, as is tradition. The tournament went as well as it could have done. It was well hosted, had been a long time since the previous one, it had excellent matches and an epic European versus North American final that extended into overtime. And yet, despite all of that, it still hasn't been as viewed as much on average as earlier majors were, even though those weren't anywhere near as perfect. Yes, it's easy to see the new record-breaking peak viewing figure and to think that CSGO is more popular than it has ever been before, but in reality, the game is beginning to slip. Player-wise, this January has seen the highest peak player numbers since March last year and the highest average since April. But both these figures are below where they were last January, which had 12,000 players more on average and a peak that was 100,000 higher. After that, it was only downhill for the rest of the year. So, if this January is the same, then it will be a disappointing year. Hype from the tournament will soon die down. It won't be long before players expect more from the game again. These spikes in viewers and players aren't the start of a golden age, but rather last gasps before the inevitable collapse. Perhaps CSGO is dying. Starting next month.
Let's go! win. Nice work.